Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is the September 18th, 2022 edition of the Boxing Source Radio Show. I am your host, James Bell, the leader of the Boxing Source. And you can check us out through social media outlets on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, through YouTube. And of course, you know that the podcast is available through iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. The Boxing Source Radio Show is available on all of those. On this particular edition, we will be talking about how the sport of boxing and the boxing world is pretty much in good hands now, because the most catastrophic thing in sports or in boxing didn't happen last night. Thank goodness, and we'll be, going in depth about that particular result. And we also will, have see if we could get on a couple of special guests here that's scheduled for this particular podcast. So, in the meantime, with that, we're going to be, talking about what had gone down over at the T-Mobile Arena last night. We had multiple fights that did take place at the T-Mobile Arena, headlined by the third bout between Canelo Alvarez, or as I always say, Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan versus Gennady Golovkin. And yes, this was the third installment of this particular matchup. Fight that has, happened 4 years after the second bout took place, where, Canelo Alvarez got a decision win over Gennady Golovkin. And here, there are a few things that, people were looking at, a few factors going into this bout. Number one, how would Canelo Alvarez react after his decision loss to Dimitri Bivol at 175 pounds, where, Bivol's light heavyweight title was on the line in that particular matchup. Unanimous decision, 7 rounds to 5, Dimitri Bivol. And then on the flip side, you had Gennady Golovkin moving up from 160 pounds. He was a unified champion at 160 pounds, moving up to 168 to face Canelo Alvarez. He only had one fight north of 160 pounds his entire career, so he had to see what he would do here at 168 pounds. Those were the two factoring things there. And yes, with Gennady Golovkin being 40 years old, we had to see how he would be able to perform at 40 years old. So going into this particular bout, we had those questions for both of those fighters, which one would kind of come out there and kind of have a good start, or try to start fast and be assertive in their offensive approach against their opponent. Well, as we've seen, right off the bat, it was pretty much Canelo Alvarez that wanted to, assert himself, try to be the guy with the dominant front foot attack or front foot placement and moving forward. Gennady Golovkin was mainly stationary, but kind of moving around the ring in a circular motion at first. Not really backing up that much, but was moving in a circular motion. But his offensive output, or his punch output, was very limited within those first rounds or so. And Canelo Alvarez was basically Canelo, try to be as sharp, calculating, and make every one of his punches count. And you've seen early in this particular bout from Canelo Alvarez something that was a theme by Canelo over the course of the fight. And that is, him either waiting for Golovkin to throw his combination, which is, to me, the double left jab followed by the right hand. And, it's pretty much viewed as a 3-punch combination, but I kind of count it as a 1-1-2, punch, jab, jab right, jab, jab right. And that's what you were seeing from Canelo Alvarez, particularly in the first half of the fight, but it was mostly a theme over the course of this bout here against Gennady Golovkin. But it was just more of Canelo dictating the pace, dictating the offensive output, and there was not really much of an answer from Gennady Golovkin. I really didn't see him kind of like assert himself in a majority of those rounds. And there was kind of like a punch that going through that first half of the fight or whatever it was that Gennady Golovkin either landed about an average of 8 punches a round or something like that, or was a very low output coming from Gennady Golovkin over the course of those rounds, and that isn't necessarily going to cut it when you're not really throwing that much, and shoot, you're not basically landing that much either, when it came to that. So I mean, we had to see how Golovkin was going to get himself into the fight, for the majority of this bout here that, happened. It was something where, I kind of like tried to see what was going on when it came to Golovkin and his offensive output. Like, I know that he, of course, is with Jonathan Banks. He had like a few more wrinkles to his offensive arsenal that he has been showing since being under the tutelage of Jonathan Banks. But we really didn't necessarily see that until round 7 or 8, coming from Gennady Golovkin. And there were like a few times that he got caught with some big shots by Canelo Alvarez. Yeah, he was able to take a majority of those shots. But it was something where after taking those shots, you really didn't see that much coming back from him. He still had like a robotic foot movement in a sense, where it's just a count. Like I said, with the count with punches with Canelo Alvarez, with the foot movement of Gennady Golovkin, it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, either forward or backward, just 1, 2, or to the side very slowly, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, I know that he's not necessarily going to be somebody like a Vasyl Lomachenko at super featherweight or something with his foot movement, but come on, man, you're going to have to do something in order to, get away from your opponent. You're pretty much like sitting right there, right? So, I kind of felt like he didn't really give Canelo different looks. And but I mean, to me, he's not really, anybody that you could brag about as far as like being defensive in any sense, whether it's from foot movement or from moving his head or from, blocking punches. He's pretty much sitting there. I mean, he'll have his, his guard up and stuff like that, but you don't really see him moving his head too much. He'll probably like roll with the number of the punches, but when it comes to like slipping punches and like doing a catch and shoot, when it comes to like switching from defense to offense, Gennady Golovkin really doesn't do that much, So he's pretty much right there, for the taking. And for me, I thought that Canelo Alvarez was able to, land a number of the punches that he was kind of throwing there in this particular sense. But it was something to where, unless if he was not in range, then Canelo was either landing or at least hitting the guard or hitting the gloves or the arms of Gennady Golovkin in this particular case. But outside of that, I really thought that I would have seen more versatile offensive strategy from Canelo Alvarez as far as like breaking down Gennady Golovkin, because those listen to the last podcast, I predicted a 9th round TKO victory for Canelo Alvarez. Methodical, calculated beatdown by Canelo Alvarez, focusing on the body of Gennady Golovkin. But I ain't really see that here in this fight, at least not that much. I mean, you kind of like seen the, like I said, the 1-1-2 with the double jab and then the right, where the right would go to the body and stuff like that, or it would just be a knee right hand to the body, but nothing that was a dedicated attack to the body. Like in comparison, when you saw in the rematch between Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua, you seen in those first few rounds that Anthony Joshua was dedicated to working the body of Alexander Usyk, because like he kind of like felt like if he worked the body of Alexander Usyk, it would diminish the stamina and bring his guard down, and kind of affect him a little bit. And he sent a message in that first round of that, but here Canelo Alvarez, I just really didn't see much of a dedicated attack to the body from Canelo Alvarez here, which I thought would have been something for him to eventually break down Gennady Golovkin. But he was still, doing this thing, Canelo being Canelo, like I said, with the 1-1-2, throwing the lead rights, keeping his guard up, moving a little bit better than he was in the Bivol fight, as he did. And I kind of mentioned that he, had some work done or whatever it is, or, he had work done with his knee, but he feels like he completely recovered from that. But there's still something else in reference to what happened to Canelo Alvarez in this fight that will go on later. But he, kind of like, did his thing as far as like being the more accurate puncher, over the course of like the first 7 or 8 rounds. And then a little bit after that, you kind of seen Gennady Golovkin throw a little bit more, be a little bit more active over the course of the last 4 rounds. And, kind of like try to get back into the fight a little bit. There were a couple of times where he landed a few good power shots, uppercuts, right hooks and stuff like that, but nothing that really seriously affected Canelo Alvarez, and nothing that could have like said, okay, this fight could have seriously shifted back into Golovkin's favor. So, even with the increased activity for Gennady Golovkin in the last 4 rounds, it wasn't enough for him to get the favorable score in the scorecards. Was a unanimous decision victory, 2 scores of 115, 113, and 1 score of 116, 112 for the winner, and still the undisputed super middleweight champion, Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan. Now, before I go into more than that, I have a guest coming in to speak on it. It is the Boxing Academic. What's going on?
What's going on, man? How you doing today?
Doing all good, man. Doing all good. Like I said, I think the boxing gods have shined upon the people, and Gennady Golovkin did not win that fight, thank goodness. I do not have to suspend my personal Twitter account for 2 months. So I would say that all is right in the world, but the only thing that didn't happen is Canelo did not finish Gennady Golovkin off or whatever it is and get a TKO victory. But we'll talk about that here in a bit. But initially, what were your thoughts about this third fight between Canelo and Golovkin?
Well, two things. Well, either one of 2 things. Golovkin is old, that's for sure. Golovkin's old, and or he didn't appear to want to go to a place that he would have needed to go to actually win this fight. Like, beside him being old and, maybe not being able to fire on all cylinders like he sort of used to. He wasn't even throwing that little overhand punch, the punch that he throw.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was. He did. He did at one point.
He threw it. I saw him throw it one time at the end, toward the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what I'm saying is, throwing it one time ain't him throwing it like how he threw it against Willie Monroe or anybody else that he fought, or Kell Brook, you know what I'm saying?
Or you mean like Who did he face there? Steve Rose, or um, Camille Zarametta. He was. Yeah.
Anybody but this fight. He threw it a couple times. He might have thrown it 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
his punch selection was very limited. His punch output was very limited. It seemed like his mindset was limited too, in that he wanted to stay home and not really maybe put himself in danger to get countered, which I get it. He was sort of old and he's never been one to be amazing with his like foot movement, but at least his arm pressure and like how he pounced on people kept people sort of honest. But now in his olden state, he like couldn't even get away from Canelo lunging telegraph punches.
Right.
Because if you are most other people who are, let's say younger, I mean, some people can't do anything about it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Plant couldn't do it. Caleb Plant avoided it most of the time, but then at some point he got caught with it. But some people can't do anything about it. Caleb Plant avoided it most of the fight. B-Ball just blocked it. He just kept a high guard and just, blocked it.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure there are some other people who couldn't do anything about it, but yeah, I was kind of disappointed in Golovkin. I kind of expected. I could see Eddie Hearn's touch on the beginning of the fight. What have you done in these past 4 years? In Canelo's video, and then for Golovkin's video, it's like I should have won all these fights. How do you feel being a fraud? I mean, I'm kind of got excited. I'm like, they talking shit through billboards and stuff. Like I should expect to see a war, and then we got that farce that we saw, which was, yeah. I kind of want my $20 back that I spent to go to the movie theater to see this fight. If it wasn't for the other fights on the card, I would have been, kind of disdain. But the second fight, the co-main was a good fight, which to me is a tale of the tape in how you beat a person who outmatches you in terms of skill. The dude who was on that co-main card,
Ben Rodriguez against Israel Gonzalez.
Rodriguez was obviously not as quick twitch muscle and probably not as skillful as Rodriguez, but Gonzalez went to the body early and often, and guess what it did? It took the cells out of Rodriguez's cells, and it allowed him to, at least at one point in the match, be competitive to where he was sort of like, pushing the action. The cards were, if I remember, the cards were like far off, but I mean, one of them was, I think, was close. I don't know, but well, maybe that was the Golovkin fight, but it was closer than I think what they said it was, but because he did a good job, but Golovkin didn't want to go to that place that he needed to go to, and I'm kind of disappointed. And it's time for him. He can beat some people, but high level, it's probably time for him to let it go. He's done enough. Good work to the fight game. You've done enough. Go rest, like Thanos.
So, well, they got a couple of things on that with Golovkin, but on that note with the Jesse Ben Rodriguez and Israel Gonzalez, that's where Ben Rodriguez won by unanimous decision, but one of those scores was 114-113, which was like 6 rounds to 6, but Rodriguez well, actually that's 7 rounds to 5, but Rodriguez had got deducted 1 point, on that. So it was, that one was more of a, closer score, for that fight, as you were talking about. But back to the thing with, Canelo and Golovkin, like you said, Golovkin really didn't, bring himself out there to take risks, to, try to go for the win. It almost seemed like, he was, content with doing what he was doing, and seeing what would happen with the results. If he just just stayed right there in front of um Canelo and did that quote unquote Mexican style that Abel Sanchez was talking about, when he was a former trainer for Golovkin, that maybe he could do something where he would be able to, stun Canelo Alvarez or something like that. But he never really had that there for him. And if it wasn't for like those last few rounds where I some would say yet again, Canelo might have, tired out a little bit in the tail end of the fight, you know. And that's when Golovkin kind of like won a few of those rounds back or whatnot. But I think a number of people felt like Canelo won nine at the very least 8 of those 12 rounds, and probably like a 9-3 score would probably be good enough. But having like a 115 113 score or something like that is like 7 rounds to 5. And some people say it's tough to see where Gennady Golovkin won 5 of those rounds. So I mean, I kind of like thought it was a struggle, to me to see where Golovkin, won 5 of those rounds. But on each end, we had, like you said, Golovkin, he did say at like around being at 40 that he still says that he has more left. That he would go back down to 160-pound division. That he did say that he is a unified champion at 160. So I'm like, okay, you're a unified champion 160. You didn't necessarily push for many unification bouts before. So what are you gonna do there now? You have 2 other champions out there in Jamal Charlo and in the newly crowned champion in Zanabek and Hanuli, who is another guy from Kazakhstan. So my question is he gonna fight another fighter within his country and probably do something that Canelo claims that he doesn't want to do in fighting Zanabek? Because Jamal Charlo has been the WBC champ for a while, and Golovkin wasn't really up to facing him. But I mean, who knows? Maybe that there's a deal that he could get from Showtime or whatever it is to fight Jamal Charlo. But I just don't see it.
I tell you what, it'd be him cashing out if he fight Jamal Charlo, because Jamal ain't gonna get tired like Canelo got tired in round 9 or so. Jamal don't have that problem. He trained pretty hard, and the way this version of Golovkin, it's gonna be his first time getting stopped. They say he never got dropped. He gonna get dropped too.
And for me, I think with Charlo, he has a more emphatic jab. Some would say he has a more emphatic and more consistent jab than Canelo Alvarez does. And I think he at this point he might have a better movement than Canelo Alvarez does at this point.
But what I will say though about Canelo, them little looping spring on these shots was very effective against Golovkin. The Golovkin couldn't do anything about those. And I don't think Jamal does that, right?
No, he doesn't.
Which is one thing that gave Alvarez a lot of success. Jamal gonna be sort of in the pocket, which it may be a closer fight because of that fact.
Actually, with those looping punches, that almost reminds me of what Ugas was doing at times against Manny Pacquiao, to kind of like stop the forward movement of Manny Pacquiao or halt it. So Canelo Alvarez was doing that here against Golovkin at times to limit the forward movement of Golovkin. But to me, with Golovkin, he is more of a guy that's, like I said, robotic in his foot movement. He's just like 1, 2. I'm coming towards you. I'm stepping to the side. I am moving backwards. Like it's like slow. It's not like he's, very shifty or swift with his foot movement or anything like that. So I mean, yeah, I'm not sure what he's going to do. I mean, at the very least, we're not going to see Golovkin in the ring for at least 5 or 6 months, maybe. And with that being said, we still have to see. Well, at least with Jamal Charlo, if he's going to be able to have a fight here coming before the end of this year. And like I said, on the flip side, with Zanabek and Nimhanuli, yeah, he did pick up the vacant title. Was elevated to WBO champion, and we'll see what happens when it comes to him having his first title defense. It might be against Squiva Falcao or a regular defense against somebody. I'm like, who knows who they'll match him up in with? But for me, I think like why isn't Jaime Munguia even being mentioned as a potential opponent for Zanabek, but I mean, even on that sense, when Zanabek was supposed to fight for the interim title, they were supposed to make that fight, and Jaime Munguia didn't take that fight either. So I really don't see him going up to face Zanabek now, even with it being for the full WBO title, So
Golovkin can face him. That'd be a good person for Golovkin to face.
Who?
Munguia.
Yeah, but I don't think his team will do it. Will go forward with it.
You don't think that with what they saw, how he getting old, that they would even risk it to try to take his belts?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, even with him, even with Golovkin having very limited movement now, and the the offensive output of Jaime Munguia, that I don't think they could do it. They might. They could throw their name in the hat. You just have to see like how much money they'd be able to put up for it. I think it's going to be maybe a bidding war of sorts for who would be able to have Gennady Golovkin be in there and fight. So it's like, hey, I mean, are we gonna see him against Charlo or Munguia or a Nimhanuli, or is he just gonna have a basic, title defense again, with those unified belts? On the flip side, there you got Canelo Alvarez, who gave a lot of credit to Gennady Golovkin. Did say that he had fractured in his left wrist. And that he potentially could have some work done on that wrist, and if so, that he would be, kind of like sidelined for about, 8 to 10 weeks, maybe. So that kind of like takes off him potentially fighting one more time this year, as some people thought that he would have fought in December, maybe against who is it? John Ryder, but with him like having the activity that he's had over the past couple of years, I don't think that he's going to go in and fight one more time here in 2022. So he'll move on as the undisputed super middleweight champion. And there was one particular question that was posed out there in the post-fight press conference by Mr. Sean Sittell, who's there with Fight Hype, and also talks in there with the podcast with Showtime, Sean Porter. And he posed, question dealing with Mr. David Benavidez. And David Benavidez is the interim WBC super middleweight champion. He's still undefeated. He hadn't lost the WBC belt in the ring. And so, he would be a real potential opponent there for Canelo Alvarez. There at 168 pounds, and Canelo brought up the point that he is not necessarily for fighting another Mexican, and he also brought up the note that David Benavidez hasn't necessarily fought anyone but Darrell, and that's pretty much it.
Benavidez say he Ecuadorian, so he ain't got nothing to worry about that.
Yeah, yeah, he did add that note in there. So that's gonna be something there. But I would like to hear a little bit more from David Benavidez on that. I will kind of like bring that up with his promoter Samson Lukowicz. I am scheduled to speak with Samson Lukowicz tomorrow. So we'll see what Brother Samson says about it. But I mean I'm kind of like saying what in the world with Canelo is and he kind of like said it right after this fight with Golovkin, and he kind of like hit it at in the post fight press conference that he's really interested in fighting Dimitri Bivol again, given or depending on what happens with Dimitri Bivol against Zerto Ramirez on November 5th or something like that. Over in what is that, Saudi Arabia or whatever, when they have that fight, and I'm like, even though it was like a 7-5 unanimous decision victory by Dimitri Bivol, in that bout, I really didn't see much that Canelo could have done that could really, if he made a change here and there, that he would be able to do something to defeat Dimitri Bivol. I know that it's a loss that really bothers him, but it's different when you're dealing with someone in Dimitri Bivol who has particular elements to his game that are counter to what Canelo Alvarez does and what he's comfortable in doing in the ring. And for me, it's mostly the footwork of Dimitri Bivol and the high guard that really gives Canelo problems. And it was something where, over the course of that fight, even with what Canelo was trying to do, trying to catch Bivol with feints, do the lead right hands, like he usually does, try to work the arms of Dimitri Bivol, it didn't necessarily work against Bivol. He wasn't landing considerably against Bivol in comparison to the other opponents. And then in the tail end of the fight, you really saw Bivol kind of like turn things up on Canelo Alvarez, and that the defense of Canelo Alvarez was just not good enough in that aspect. And you've seen multiple instances where Canelo was just disappointed in what was going on over the course of that fight, So here in a rematch against Bivol, I really just don't see what Canelo could possibly do to really get an advantage over Dimitri Bivol in that, if there is a potential rematch there in 2023. So I mean, that remains to be seen, but for the time being, I mean, it's Canelo still there, the super middleweight champion. But like you said, Boxing Academic, you were really kind of like disappointed overall in this third bout. That Golovkin really didn't do that much, and to a certain extent, Canelo really didn't step it up to do what I wanted him to do, was finish off Gennady Golovkin and stop him and have a TKO victory, and then we probably wouldn't have Gennady Golovkin continue his career. Now it's almost like, oh, I did this, you did that, you did this, I did that. Oh, it was a highly skilled match. It was a good technical bout between two high level fighters. Oh, you did great. Oh, you did too. No. That's what I basically got at the end of the fight, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. See, could have had a definitive. I wanted a definitive winner. I know that people will say that, hey, we didn't really get much doubt in this decision, but I wanted a definitive winner in Canelo Alvarez in this particular matchup, and we didn't necessarily get that. So now it's like, well, okay, Canelo wins. It's doubtful that he'll defend the undisputed super middleweight titles next. He's gonna move up in weight again, and by doing that, to a certain extent, he's pretty much like holding up the super middleweight division. So I'm like, we really didn't get much out of this, and beforehand, like I said, if it wasn't something where the result was a definitive Canelo Alvarez victory with a stoppage win over Gennady Golovkin, I really wasn't that interested in that result. So boxing academic, what do you think about the aftermath overall for this?
The aftermath. I mean, I don't know. I don't care. I mean, unless Canelo fighting people that got a sort of chance, which in case we know his Achilles heel is his endurance. And if he can fight somebody that can take his punches, it'll be a good, interesting fight because, he fades late. Golovkin is a former shell of himself. I'd question the risk that he's taking, and in the risk that he would take, is he sort of cashing out? And if he's with Eddie Hearn, is he with Eddie Hearn?
Oh, with Canelo or
Golovkin?
Yeah, pretty much in a way, yeah.
So at least Eddie Hearn will match people up. Their matchmakers don't do probably as good of a job as they probably should do in making people look good via the match that they make for them. His fighters are always in competitive fights because somebody ain't doing their job right. And maybe that's winning for the fans, but yeah, all these other matchmakers kind of got their science down a little bit better to at least understand outside of a knockout or something like that, generally 80% of the time, which matches are advantageous for their fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say Eddie Hearn and his matchmaker kind of got that down. So yeah, maybe Golovkin can go be in for competitive fights and fights that he got to push to win. And I just don't think he probably gonna go to that well because obviously the man comfortable to an extent, and his body just don't seem to have it.
Yeah,
it's just time. Like he's had a great career. People say he had a historic run. Okay, I'll give him that. What else he got to prove other than get himself hurt?
Like, I mean, for me, it's more of like him with his career, particularly in middleweight, is that like you said, he had that run, but where are the notable fighters within that run? There are a number of people that want to bring up, there were fighters that didn't want to face him. Well, there's only like a couple of fighters definitively that didn't want to face Gennady Golovkin, but there were others that did want to face him, whether it was his first run as unified middleweight champion, or the second time around, after he lost to Canelo Alvarez 4 years ago. He was able to acquire a belt once again, and then when it came to unifying against the likes of Jamal Charlo or Demetrius Andrade, it didn't necessarily happen. It ended up being against Herrero Murata. So, my take with him was that, okay, he wanted to, build his way up first, and then, get belts, but then he really wanted to be a big money guy. Yeah, there could have been fights against top guys like a Miguel Cotto, initially before Canelo defeated Cotto. But then, for me, Golovkin did a couple of things to really kind of irk Canelo Alvarez at first, which is why he initially gave up the WBC middleweight title at that time. So then afterwards, it's like, you still wanted to fight Canelo when you could have been undisputed at 160 pounds. So that kind of like, told me like where he was as far as like either his legacy or, being a prize fighter. Like I don't blame you if you want to be a prize fighter. That's what professional boxers do is they fight for a prize fighter. So, but don't don't go at trying to say that, oh, you want to do one thing when we see that your direction is somewhere else, and I kind of like seen that be a more definitive when he came back after his second fight against Canelo. Was that okay, I'm coming back, I'm fighting Steve Rose, I'm fighting Camille Cesaro. Okay, the thing with Derevianchenko, okay, people, kind of like semi brought that fight with Derevianchenko because Derevianchenko was a world title contender and that he was still a, technical, tough fighter. And, some folks thought that Derevianchenko probably got the better of Gennady Golovkin in that fight. But, outside of that, you really didn't see Golovkin, as you say, take risks to try to definitively fight and face these more notable fighters that were in the middleweight division. Even though middleweight division overall wasn't really as deep as some other divisions out there, but now, and I kind of like made this point recently. I said, listen, if Gennady Golovkin didn't go after those guys in those previous times before, I don't see him doing that now at 40 years old. Like, if like going against Jamal Charlo at this particular point of his career, that would be a huge risk for him. Against somebody who I feel is actually bigger than Canelo Alvarez, especially when it comes to walk around weight. I think that Jamal Charlo comes down from a significantly higher weight to get down to 160 than Canelo Alvarez does. So I just really don't see where he would like either go after someone like a Jamal Charlo or even facing Zanabek and them Haluli. Like, is he facing a guy within his that's countryman? I just don't really see that. So hey, maybe a fight against Simon McGee might be in the cards for him. Who knows? But I just like it just feels, yeah, I just had my level of skepticism on that in reference to Gennady Golovkin facing guys of that caliber, So that's why I got in that. And like you were mentioning sometime earlier in the co-feature bout, you had Jesse Bam Rodriguez defending his WBC super flyweight title against Israel Gonzalez, and of course with Bam Rodriguez coming off of his win against Swiziket Sorungasai in San Antonio this summer. He had been going up against notable guys that have been part of the 115-pound division over the past, 5, 7, 8 years in Sorungasai and Carlos Cuadras, going up against Israel Gonzalez, who, came in there with a record of 28-4-1 and had faced Chocolatito Gonzalez at one point of his career, but did I think he was like a world title contender, not necessarily getting that world championship in his attempts that he was trying to go for the titles. But yeah, he did give Bam Rodriguez some trouble. Rodriguez, going to the body wasn't necessarily, that accurate. And did get deducted a point in the 8th round. But over the course of the bout, you kind of like seeing Bam Rodriguez, have some spurts of him, being like showing that he was a better fighter. But yeah, he had to work in order to get through this particular bout. And he ended up winning by unanimous decision with one score of 118-109, one score of 117-110, and then another score of 114-113. And as I said, he did have a point deducted. So shoot, man, one judge had him winning 11 rounds, another judge had him winning 10, and then the other judge had him winning, what is that, like 7? So those scorecards, that was a pretty interesting scorecard to say the least there in reference to that. But Boxing Academic, you did kind of like note this particular bout and how that scorecard was and how that fight kind of like turned out, where Bam Rodriguez had to work a little bit in reference to this, and that's kind of interesting because when I was previewing this particular bout, I was kind of like featuring Bam Rodriguez as the guy that was kind of like saying, hey, this might be the one of the more exciting fighters that's coming up there at 100 and or at super flyweight. Now he did kind of like come up from flyweight to super flyweight to face Carlos Cuadras and Shizuke Rangmasai. So having those wins, they're like saying, oh, maybe this guy could be the next guy that would be a superstar in the super flyweight division, that he could kind of like take the proverbial torch from those guys that have been battling each other, over the years in Carlos Cuadras, in Saul Rangmasai, in Chocolatito Gonzalez, and with Juan Francisco Estrada. So now it's like, okay, maybe he could face the winner of Estrada versus Chocolatito that's coming up in December. But given this performance, maybe some people are having a little bit of doubts on how he could do that. So we'll see how that goes. What did you think about it?
About which part now?
The Bam Rodriguez fight.
Oh, well, I mean, I thought that if you are a person who is seemingly outmanned by a person that's supposed to beat you, and the person has more intangibles, and you got a little bit of skill, a little bit of IQ, the way that you stay in the fight is by going to the body. This has been tried and true in a lot of different fights. You take the Ward Kovalev one. Ward got clipped with a shot. He closed the distance. Didn't let Kovalev get off his shots that he needed space to get off, and was throwing body shots, throwing hooks, staying close to his chest. And then the second fight, we know that was probably one of the more masterful master classes that somebody can put on. That just a demolition from start to finish. It's the fight would have went totally different if he didn't go to the body. Even the Anthony Joshua fight. Anthony Joshua going to the body earlier in the fight allowed him to have a much more competitive fight. You see the difference between his fight where he don't go to the body and his fight where he do go to the body. It's much more competitive. Yeah, he had a different mindset. Yeah, you can say there are some things that were different, but if you against a guy that's better than you, you got to go to the body. Even with Deontay Wilder, when he first started off in round one, round two, round one, he didn't do it after that. But maybe the first round for sure. Maybe the second round, he won the first round, and then the second round was competitive. Might have won the second round. It was competitive. Right. And then after that, obviously he was tired. But got to go to the body, man. It gives you a better chance. Gives you a better chance to compete against guys that are more skillful, talent wise than you. And Bam Rodriguez, I think this was a good fight for him in terms of, you see, the man is the goods, like he definitely is a skillful fighter. He can throw big shots, and his shots was just like bombs, like it's so much velocity on them shots that you could just tell they just was hurting. Well, I mean, what's his name had very much like nerves of steel too. He didn't want to like quit. You could tell that man was prideful in Gonzalez, that he didn't want to get beat. But Bam, yeah, he's a pretty good prospect at this point. But yeah, contender maybe. But yeah.
But
I
yeah,
thought it
the
was
thing.
probably one of the more exciting fights on the card, though.
Yeah, the thing with Israel Gonzalez, like I was saying, he had been world title contender a few times, against like Kyle Yafai, against Chocolatito, and against like Yoran Ancajas, among others, but didn't necessarily get the win on those. So he had that type of experience there at the super flyweight division that could give someone that's a young guy like a Bam Rodriguez some tough rounds in, and that's exactly what happened now. So that's what was going down. All right, now wanted to add in another guest here to join us. Here, yo, what's happening, my man?
What's going on, guys? Just saying what up. Just saying what up. I'm doing good though, man. Been relaxing all day.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. That's good, man. What did you think about the night in boxing yesterday?
Uh it was it was just mid. It was okay. I only I only really watched like a couple rounds of Bam, which were the mid rounds, and then I watched the main event. And then check it. I went to the theater actually, and watched it in the theater with a couple friends of mine who came back in town from Northern California.
Okay.
They loved it. I was okay with it. Um, I thought Canelo. I don't know, man. He did not look dynamic, and for all the talk that he got during the week, and kind of the build up to people, when we would talk about this fight, uh, didn't get a knockdown, man. And I don't know. I don't know. Judging off judging off what I saw from him, I still stand on my David Benavidez pick. He would flatline him, man. Uh, in fact, I feel better about Canelo fighting Charlo rather than David. So hope for the best, man. I want the best to fight the best. And I was listening to you guys talk about Bam a little bit. Yeah, man, I like boxing. What's up, boxing? I'm doing too. I agree with you, sir. You could clearly see the young man's got the goods. Uh, he's on my up and coming pound for pound list. I'm not ready to anoint him like some of the guys do on the spaces. I like his 2 wins over chocolate. Not I was gonna say Chocolatito. Who was that?
So run beside and Carlos Carlos.
Yes, I love that. To me, on the overall picture, there's just no one down there for Bam to fight. That's why they asked him to come up to where Congress and them were at, and he ended up styling on him and stopping the old guy. Uh, he's not ready for a Nayo Inoue or even a Chocolatito. I think those two would embarrass the young man. However, he's ready for it. And when I just kind of say embarrassing, just like that school him, and it would kind of stunt his growth on what those guys are trying to pump him up, to what he is. But like those guys would stunt that for a little bit. But he's ready for him. But ain't nobody down there to fight him, man. Those weight classes to me, boxing source, just they're not. There's no depth in them. There's no
Right. Yeah,
depth in
yeah,
them.
yeah. Even with what his trainer Robert Garcia was saying after the Sobran Masai fight, like he was, really pushing for Bam Rodriguez to go back down to the flyweight division and have a couple of fights there. But I mean, everybody knows the money is there at super flyweight with those guys that are still available, and Juan Francisco Estrada and Chocolatito Gonzalez, and as I was
But you
saying,
know what, Scores? You know
you
what?
know,
Like, man, nah. What is he? 5'8", 5'7", 5'8"?
who
Bam,
Bam is what about like around
about
that?
5'8". If he's
Yeah,
5'8", nah,
he's
man,
no
go
no
ahead
no
and go
no
to
no 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 no
118.
no 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 no. He's shorter, much shorter than that. He's 5'4", man.
Nah. Yeah, yeah.
He's 5'4", and I mean, you got like who is he like this? Not you like you can't. You mean to tell me that you can't see about getting a fight in there against a Sonny Edwards, or Julio Cesar Martinez, who, well, I don't know, Bart. Julio Cesar Martinez because he's kind of
You know what
he's kind
happened to him? You know what happened to
of
him? Exactly
yeah,
what I said about Bam fighting the best. Like he took that fight against Chocolatito on short notice. I think what 2 weeks, no, 2 3 weeks notice, maybe even
yeah,
shorter than that.
yeah, around that
And
range.
he's going he's going through the stunting right now, where like he got stunted on, he got embarrassed,
Yeah,
but
and now he's
also
facing
he
some questionable. Wait, like some dude, man, I don't even know.
no. Like, he got the tip of the cap, so he kind of feeling himself, kind of doubting himself, just kind of going through some motions right now. He's fine. I just think after fighting a Chocolatito talent, he's going through a reality check, wake up call. I think
Mhm.
I think Martinez will be fine. Just he's going through. He needs a reality check. He's going through it right now, man, because he had success going across the seas and was a major contribution to the lighter weights, also to the Mexican fan base, also to that Mexican UK rivalry that, or dare I say American, American styles too, come over there and stun on him. So that's what I think he's going through. I think he's going to be fine because I don't think anyone down there can mess with him either. There's just no depth, source. There's just no depth down there, man. So I don't, and like I try not to go crazy with J Ro and Naoto and Too Slick, guys like that,
Yeah,
or I try not to go so hard because I'm just like, yo, like I know those guys are really really good, but they ain't fighting nobody, and then the guys up here have all the smoke and are regular size. So
hmm
until it gets a little more juicier down there for me, I'll start paying attention. But I know Bam's for real. Shout out to him. Shout out to Texas. I'm rolling with you, baby. Just yeah, I'll catch up on the bandwagon soon.
yeah. I mean,
Interesting perspective. Clever. Interesting
See,
perspective.
see. I'm just no beef, no shade though. Academic, no, not for real, man. Like, I mean, I'll ask you guys who can mess with Bam down there.
man, I was about to just name like you talk about the lack of depth in the flyweight division. I'm looking at the super flyweight division. I'm not really, seeing that much after, the Chocolatitos, the Estradas and Bam, and then, Kazuya Ioka. You got like what, Josh Franco and what is it? Cajas, so I'm like who else are we naming here, what is it? Jose
The IO.
Tanaka, Maloney, who's going to be over in Australia fighting. Like after that, it's like, maybe had Charlie Edwards that might be bouncing up and down between those two divisions, but like, who else are we talking about?
Oh, also that you mentioned Sonny earlier. I actually, given that perspective I just gave, I think he would draw with Bam. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna just dismiss Sonny like that. I
Right.
really think that could be a draw or learning experience for either guy, really. But
Mhm.
Sonny's chances are pretty high in that fight. I'm not gonna dismiss him like that. And I know the young buck is the shit. He is the man down there, but Sonny ain't no slouch either, man. He is different in there in the ring. He's got boxing IQ.
Yeah, I think that would be. I think that would be a really good fight. Between those two, with the Ben
Hmm.
Rodriguez and Ceddy Edwards. If they don't try to say, "Hey, okay, we're gonna put Bam Rodriguez in there against the Strada versus Chocolatito winner." Well, like if you don't want to necessarily do that, and if Robert Garcia is like looking at what's happening here in this particular bout and saying, hey, maybe he might not be quite ready for an Estrada or Chocolatito Gonzalez. And hey, well, I mean, maybe you got some against Sonny Edwards where you have a measuring stick for both of those fighters. I mean, both of them, there's world champions, whether it's at, flyweight or super flyweight. So, why not, have these guys face each other, figure out what weight both of those guys would be comfortable with and see, how they would, go at it,
I think Estrada too, source and academic. Match trying to match Bam up with him. I think Bam could style on him for however long he could survive. Because if he pops Estrada, man, and you get into a firefight with Estrada, he could TKO the young man. So I know that's a that's a questionable fight to take as well. Like you said, the Estradas and the Chocolatitos. I don't think he's could mess with those guys, but I think he's was that a not too distant third, not too far, not too
Right,
far.
yeah. Because I
Hence,
mean,
hence why his coach wants him to stay in one division and just like, hey man, let me grow, just fight.
Yep. And you know that was my thing there with you know Bam Rodriguez going up against Quadras and a sore run beside is that Quadras was a guy there at 115 or super flyweight that just didn't quite get there as far as like getting the big wins against those other guys. So he was kind of like a tier below the run besides the Chocolatitos and the Estradas. And then like you know, with sort of run beside, he was a step above because he got those wins over Chocolatito. But it's like you know, a couple of other fights he just wasn't you know as successful, or fighters he wasn't as successful with. You know, so yeah, you could get those wins against those guys, but then you're gonna have to face like the top tier when it comes to super flyweight, and you know when you got people within your camp that still don't feel like you're there yet, then you shouldn't jump right in there against those guys, you know. So there was that. Other fights that were included on the card included Austin Williams against Kieran Conway.
Can I answer a clever question just because he asked both of us?
All right, cool.
This answer ain't gonna be impressive, clever. Let me just preface. Yeah, I don't follow the low weights as much. Matt gives me a hard time, but yeah.
But
Matt's
he really
brand
don't
new
follow.
too, though. Academic, don't let him trick you. He's brand new to that shit too. Don't let him trick you.
Okay.
Yeah. He don't necessarily. He says he don't necessarily care that much about those guys in those lower weight classes anyway. So you're not really you know missing much on that end. But you know, like was going through Austin Williams going up against Kieran Conway, Mo Williams getting a unanimous decision victory over Conway. Two scores of 97-92 and one score of 96-93. So it was like two scores of 7 rounds to 3, one score of 6 rounds to 4, with Mo Williams scoring a knockdown in round 9 that, you know, I get, you know, pretty much like separated himself from Kieran Conway in this bout. Was for a version of a middleweight title there. WBA International Championship. I mean, like I said, at one point,
Intercontinental.
the Intercontinental. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the U.S. title, Intercontinental title, TV title. Like what are we talking about here? You know, I'm like, come on, man. But I guess you know this kind of like you know places Mo Williams in there among the I guess the mid-level contenders. They're in the middleweight division. So you know, for me, I'm not sure like where they could put him in there, but I will say that there really isn't. I just don't know where he would be at this particular point. They might just have another fight for him that's kind of like within that level for him next. You got like too much going on within the middleweight division, I guess, particularly at the top. I know that Chris Eubank is still kind of like iffy if he's facing, you know, Conor Ben or whatever it is.
That's such a bad fight source. Oh my
I
gosh.
know. And you still have a former world champion Ryota Murata. You got to see what's going to be next for him. And for some inexplicable reason, the WBA has Sergio Martinez included in the top 5 of their rankings. Like, what's going on here? I don't know.
Someone trying to get a payday for him, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing, and you know, that's okay, right?
Oh, you just mentioned something right there. A payday for Sergio Martinez.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's what
You
that
know
is.
what? This is a very, very outside chance. Even though some people thought he was reluctant to do this before. But what if Sergio Martinez ended up facing Golovkin next year?
Either that, or they try to get him back in the ring with who's that? the tall Coachella guy. Why am I blanking on his name? The Tower Inferno. What's that dude's
Oh
name?
no. Fedora's fighting. He's
Oh,
fighting
that was Garcia.
Jose.
That was
Yeah, you
wait.
want.
That I was thinking of someone else. But
Yeah,
still, they could. Well, not that aside now, but like they could probably, they're trying to target some money and like
mhm,
a main event,
yeah,
if they're going to push him like that. But go
yeah.
ahead, sir.
So yeah, man. I mean, we had to see like what New World Sergio Martinez is gonna do next. That would be, I guess, cleared by the state athletic commissions and sanctioned by the World Boxing Association in reference to that. But um, like I mean, maybe Emma Williams could get something against maybe another guy, another British fighter in there, maybe a Felix Cash or something like that. Um, yeah, I have to see what other potential bouts would be out there for Emma Williams at this point. They gotta. I think Emma is somebody that they gotta bring along slow too. So I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't think that he should. Kind of like have a something where he like jumps into the fire in reference to that. But hey, maybe it could be a Felix Cash because Felix Cash is there undefeated. He's a fighter that's under matchroom himself. Did score a decision win over his last opponent in February, so that might be a possible matchup there between a couple of contenders there in the middleweight division later on down the line. So I mean, hey, we could get a couple potential bouts out there for Ammo Williams before they could say that hey he's ready to try to contend for a world championship or something like that. You know,
Yeah,
um,
he's not ready for that source.
yeah,
I agree with you. I still think he's on the outside looking in as far as
mhm.
the top. I would just say top 10. I think he's top 15 guy.
All
You know,
right, yeah,
he's
yeah,
pushing 12, 14ish in that area.
yeah,
Because he has looked good. Um, I'm just respectfully going to give him some time coming back off whatever he was going through, hiatus, whatever he was dealing with. Um, we still have to see how he's going to rebound from that. But he's still very far from a championship. But also, too, man, you look, if he's in a good spot. He's with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. So if he could talk up a good game and get in position and convince Eddie to get him into some type of championship caliber fights or damn near fight for a belt, that's a good thing, man. That's a good thing. But gosh, you know, who does the zone have? I mean, I guess they have they got a decent middleweight stable, right? Just the guys I would
yeah,
normally think of
yeah.
over there.
Middleweight,
Okay.
yeah, middleweight, yeah. They got a decent stable over there. It's just majority of those guys are from the UK, so that's why I kind of like brought up the potential about between maybe Emma Williams and Felix Cash. I mean, Felix Cash just came off of a win over another fellow guy that was undefeated there at middleweight. So maybe they could do that again. But unless that they have something lined up for Felix Cash already, because that particular bout was like early this year, and you want to at least have like 2 fights a year before you kind of try to get through on something else, especially a fight of that particular caliber. So, maybe that's a potential matchup, but they got to see like how they're going to direct both of those fighters. Now, on the note of those these regional titles and the like I said, the international, intercontinental, U.S. TV title or whatever it is, you had 2 bouts pretty much like that in the super middleweight division in this card, including Diego Pacheco getting a fifth round TKO victory over Enrique Colazo for the WBC United States Super Middleweight title, a vacant United States Super Middleweight title, and you had Ali Akhmadov getting a unanimous decision victory over Gabe Rosado, clean shutout, 190 on all cards. There was a 10-round bout, and that was for the North American and silver super middleweight titles. They were also vacant. Sure, come on, man. Like these either they're vacant or they're creating these belts, and I'm like, come on, like, yo, what is this, man? And I don't know. Maybe they could have these guys face each other. I don't know. Maybe somewhere later. Like we gotta have more of a clarification here in the the super middleweight division or whatnot. Even though, like I said, with Canelo, he's kind of like holding things up to a certain extent. Um, so with that being
Oh,
said, like
definitely.
with that being said, like what are these other fighters going to do here? Like you got these minor belts or whatever it is, and does that mean that hey, are these guys going to eventually face each other? You got like guys that have a minor belt or IBO title, like Carlos Gongora, who had an IBO belt and then lost it. Now, where else is he going to be at this particular point? You got Shane Mosley Jr. That was doing a couple things here and there at super middleweight. You got, like I said, John Ryder that's floating around there. Jesse Hart floating around, but he could potentially be fighting a top
That's
ranked
super
contender.
middleweight, right?
Yep, super
John
middleweight.
Ryder.
Yep.
Okay.
Jesse Hart could possibly fight a top contender there in the super middleweight division, but that still remains to be seen. But I mean,
Jesse Hart's like 35, 34.
yeah, around like 34, 35 there. Yeah, for the guy. Yeah, he's kind of up there.
Okay.
So, but like I mean, we got a number of guys that's out there in super middleweight, but yeah, we do have the fight that's supposed to be going on with Caleb Plant and Anthony Durrell on October 15th. But outside of that, what other top rated fights are out there or available? You know what I mean? So why not? Like you got to have some of these guys face each other, man.
Yeah, well, maybe Jesse Hart gets it on with Janabek, and he loses in a like split decision or something like that. Talking about Hart, because Janabek might get him up out of there.
Well, I don't
Uh,
know because
act,
that's
oh no,
with
yeah,
him
I'm
at
tripping. I'm
middleweight.
tripping. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
middleweight. He's super. I'm tripping.
yeah.
I'm tripping. Scratch that. Scratch that. Scratch. 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 They'll like source. They'll. These guys will fight, man. These guys will fight. These guys will. They'll end up fighting. Um, Jamal is, I need to do some research with him.
Mm-hmm.
I need to ask some questions. But for the most part, I've always stayed out of his business, especially like when the Selecki fight got announced. I was kind of anticipating that, and then ever since that been dropped, it's been quiet. So I'll ask you quickly: does he fight before the year's over?
Who?
Jamal Charlo.
Well, given recent news in reference to the legal issues that have been going down with him over the course of the year, that had been cleared up. Of course, he was scheduled to fight on Juneteenth weekend against Matsi Selecki. I'm hoping that he does end up fighting before the end of this year. It's just that I gotta be able to pinpoint what would be the date that he would be able to be fighting again.
December.
Yeah, like December looks like the only period where he could have a fight because I mean he's a guy that's WBC middleweight champion and he would be a main eventer. So they have to create a card where he would be the event. And so yeah, I'd say like December. What do we got? Like 4th, 11th, and 12th, something.
Or even a November slot. I mean, I know that's really pushing it. I know that's pushing the envelope, but
yeah, like I don't see would it be like November 12th maybe or something,
yeah, or
yeah,
22nd.
Yeah, November 12th, of course we got to see what's up with November 19th, of course.
Nah, scratch that. Forget that.
Yeah,
Scratch that.
So November 12th would be something for that, or maybe December 10th. If Tank doesn't fight on that date, then
Or he
you'll
fight,
probably have to fit in.
or
So
he would fight under Tank on the Tank
nah,
card.
nah. Like I
Nah,
said,
he's a main
I
eventer.
think
He's an official main eventer.
yeah, he's an official main eventer. When you got someone like Mauricio Suniman that was talking about Maul Charlo being somebody, as long as he's the WBC middleweight champion, that he has a set date that he's going to be fighting someone during Juneteenth weekend, then that makes him like a main event guy in whatever things that he does. So,
Hmm.
so yeah, I really hope that Maul Charlo has a fight before the end of this year, so that he could get himself back into the thick of things, and then we'll see what happens with him after he has the defense of the WBC middleweight championship. So that's what they got going there. That is most of the stuff that we were able to cover for that fight card. I mean, next up, you got on Friday, and I was like, dang man, this is on Friday.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Shakur Stevenson, Robertson Consecao, unified super featherweight championships. Consecao had a fight with Oscar Valdez for the WBC version of the super featherweight title before Valdez lost to Stevenson there, where Valdez had his little tea incident before that fight against Robertson Consecao.
Yeah,
And
that was
that was like,
embarrassing, wasn't it?
yeah,
Damn.
it was. That was Concecao's lone loss there in his pro career so far. Going up here against Shakur Stevenson for the unified belts over in Newark. Man, I think it might be another opportunity for Shakur Stevenson to kind of like show off himself. Now, with that being said,
Agreed.
with that being said, there is something, of course, that I had a little note of sorts when it came to Shakur Stevenson, as Shakur Stevenson is ranked number 9 on the boxing source pound for pound rankings.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay. I'm not mad at that.
yeah, and I think he is the one of the more talented, versatile fighters out there in the sport.
He's next if he can put it together all together. He's
yeah,
next.
I
He's
think
that kind of talent.
I think the remaining thing that's left for him is having power behind his punches. He's probably one of the better defensive fighters in the game right now. And I think he could be one of the more efficient offensive fighters as well. It's just that his powers is not, I guess, not there, so to speak, when it comes to being a quote unquote complete fighter in a sense.
I kind of want to play devil's advocate on that, because
Okay.
a lot of guys right now, quote unquote, that's something missing from their game, power. And I'm thinking more high profile now. So yes, David Haney, Shakur Stevenson, even Kambosos. I hate to even say that, but just throwing some names out there, like especially those first two that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's kind of what those guys and anyone who's modeling them, like even some up and comer guys, like throw a Tiger Johnson in there. Yeah, they got to, you need more time to break people down. And that's kind of the hate on women's boxing. They just don't have enough time to fight each other. That's why they go in there just swinging for the fences. But Shakur, I liked your opening thesis. You said that this is another opportunity to show out. And if he does, I think he can catch Constantine, if I'm saying that correctly, and clip him. But he's going to really have to go for the kill. It should be a really good fight. But, it's his hometown. What's his second time fighting in Prudential, if not first?
Yeah, Prudential. Yeah.
I think it's the second time, though. He should go in there and show out, man. Go in there and stop that guy. And perhaps the referee stops it. You know, kind of how Ryo got done. He just goes in there and shows out. Maybe not as quick as that because Consensao can fight he can box himself off too. But I don't think Shakur has power like that anyway. So, but the boy can fight his ass off, man. The boy is, I'll mention Devin Haney's name again too. No one beats those guys. Probably from 140 and down. Talk especially with Haney. He's that good. He's that good. I.e. Tank though, but he's that good, man. Like those guys can fight and really get the job done and know the game from inside out and am smart enough to make the right decisions and adjustments in there if they get in trouble or not, and know how to use the clock, manage everything. And Shakur's case, he's got ESPN backing him, so the sky's the limit, man. If he really puts it together, Shakur's next, because right now it's now I'm totally switching it and stealing the swag here. It's I don't think anyone beats Tank. So all the rest of these guys need to figure it out, man. They need to figure it out, especially if you got good backing. Figure it out. But he is, and I'll shut up after this, he is pound for pound stuff. He is pound for pound stuff, no doubt. Shakur Stevens, no doubt.
Yeah, and I'll go through the list once again here a little bit later, but I wanted to add in another guest here that recently celebrated Earth Strong. Getting back into it here, the chef himself, Brother Terrell from Tampa. What's going on? I'll fight anyone.
Welcome, brother.
Hey, will I be getting my $20 million guarantee to participate in this show?
Man, long as you show up on the 19th.
Hold on. Let me check the numbers for your previous few fights and then see if it's going to be profitable to give you.
Right. Early.
Oh man, what's going on, Terrell?
Not much, man. Just want to check in real quick with what's going on with the latest news and things in boxing going forward.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, yeah, we went down the gambit of Canelo scoring that win over Golovkin, saving the boxing world from having Gennady Golovkin be regarded as the undisputed super middleweight champion.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. me having my personal account suspended on Twitter for 2 months. And we kind of went down, I think, for Ben Rodriguez.
Suspended for talking crap about Golovkin.
Yeah. If Golovkin, by any way, any shot, any reason, won that fight against Canelo Alvarez, I would have suspended my personal Twitter account for 2 months.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Nah, Terrell. Both those guys are washed, man. You didn't miss anything. Dog. Like.
Well, I mean, he kind of seen it. He was like, what was going on with the scorecards? Like, like I was saying with those 2 scorecards being 7 rounds to 5 and then 1 scorecard being 8 rounds to 4 when it was more of like a 9-3 fight.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was like, not sure what a couple of them judges were looking at. But we had that, and of course, Ben Rodriguez had his little performance, there against Gonzalez and whatnot, and maybe he's not quite ready for a Chocolatito or a Juan Francisco Estrada. So, but yeah, outside of that, we were previewing this thing here with Shakur Stevenson is fighting on Friday night over in his hometown in Newark against Robson Consecao. So. I'm seeing this as an opportunity for him to show out. What do you think about that, Brother Terrell?
Well, I told you guys his fight's coming up so fast. Forgot about that. I mean, honestly, just wish him success. Wish he just comes out and gives us a showcase fight once again, just like his last fight. With that said, he comes out of this fight unscathed. Hope he can fight for another belt, even though Aaron was not really interested in that happening, but I mean, why not? Why not go for all the belts and things like that? So that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, even right after had the win that Shakur Stevenson got over Oscar Valdez, I was like, listen, man, there really isn't that much that that should be required for Shakur Stevenson to become the undisputed champion at that weight class. I mean, I don't see these other guys that hold world titles in Joe Cardina and even with Hector Luis Garcia or whatnot. That you could much would say like would give him much of a competitive issue. So why not go after those guys and try to become undisputed champion at super featherweight?
I tell you a quick
Yeah,
question.
he should. He should. He should.
Quick question. So let's look at someone like Josh Taylor, right? Unified the belts at 140, and then got to the point where it became burdensome, where he can make his defenses, things like that, and ultimately he's down to one belt now, right? So is it really as important to unify all the belts in your division, or just simply one or two, and you're in the driver's seat for your division? Which one is better?
Well, I'd say it could be one or two as long as you're fighting the guys or the guy that was kind of like considered among the top few fighters in your weight class, and it wasn't really much of a question of that. And so the thing about it is, what Shakur Stevenson had basically already did that, because he kind of like beat the guy that quote unquote maybe beat the guy at the super featherweight division, and he beat another guy that held the world title for a good little amount of time. So that was the thing, was that from the quote unquote lineage of the super featherweight division, you had Jamel Herring there as the WBO champion. You had Miguel Burchell there as the WBC champion. They wouldn't unify, so you had two guys come up from 126. Valdez moves up and knocks out Miguel Burchell, and Shakur Stevenson moves up and stops Jamel Herring, and then we finally get a unification bout with two guys that beat the guys at the top of the 130-pound division. So Shakur Stevenson is there without question, the top guy in the weight class. So I mean, as of right now, even though he could potentially be someone that could kind of like unify all the belts, he really doesn't have to kind of like show that he's the number one guy at 130 pounds.
Yeah, and I agree with that source. Man, I'm also looking at it from the business side as well. And I'll start, Terrell, with that Josh Taylor comment. And I love Josh Taylor, man. The issue that he ran into is really timing. And I say that because, A, there's no money in 140. That's not a money division. And then B, yes, he does have the prerequisites, meaning he's got the resume to show for it, because it's very nice. And what's funny is probably like the 3 out of the 4, maybe I think 4 for 4, I think I chose against Josh Taylor. No beef, no shade, love him, love his style. That guy can really fight. And he's another one who knows how to he's smart. He knows what to do in the ring and how to play the game, even with his limitations. He just risked it. But when he did become undisputed, this is the bad part now of the business here. You think after you would do something like that, so much recognition would come his way, and yes, the money. No, it's a marketing tool now, and it didn't even work with Josh Taylor, because he did a lot of work. He did a lot of work, and he picked up belt by belt, I think 3 of them, if not all of them. So that's what Errol is trying to do. But coming back to who is that? Shakur, same thing, brother. He's in a super featherweight where there's really no money there, and I think the real winner and equalizer there is the timing, because if we just wait on it, and if you heard me earlier, I think Shakur is next. His talent to me right now says next. I'm not really worried about it. I do want to see the young brother fight. I do have flaws with him too. He's not perfect, but he's next, because his style, man, is very difficult, if not very hard to beat. Like, I don't even know if you can beat that. There's not a lot of guys who could beat that style. He's got one of those.
Well, the thing with Josh Taylor was he ended up winning the World Boxing Super Series there in 140 pounds with the win in the final against Regis Prograis to kind of like unify,
Good timing though,
one belt
right?
with
It was
another
good
belt,
timing.
and then after that particular point, you had Jose Carlos Ramirez who unified what was it, the WBC and WBO titles with the win over Maurice Hooker. So, um, you know Taylor just went ahead and signed with Top Rank in order to make that undisputed title fight, to happen. But like I said, I mean, sometimes it's you don't necessarily have um, a demand for fights that are 140 pounds that kind of like generate a lot of interest. The only fight that I kind of like see that could have been there that would be the most lucrative for him was potentially a rematch between him and Regis Prograis. And Regis Prograis is just somebody that I'm skeptical if he, is there at 140 pounds or not. So,
Oh no no no
right.
no 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 no! Wait
So,
wait, hang on. I'm not gonna let you slip with that one. That's fair, but look, let's give Regis
yeah,
credit. And I agree with you. I would love to see a rematch with that, and I would love to see a rematch between Jose and Josh. Again, I said I think I picked against Josh in almost most of his championship fights. Um,
mm,
I thought Jose could pull that out, but after obviously those knockdowns, you could see that was a really good fight. That was a really, really good fight.
yeah,
I'd love to see a rematch of that fight. And then I would like to see Regis fight Jose as well. Um, Regis could crack, but back to him. You see, he's smart. I want to give him credit. He knows the guys are bigger, stronger, faster up at 47. So he's going to
mm-hmm.
keep his butt right at 40. So I wanted to cut you a little earlier and say that let's just see him beat Cepeda and let's see him his second ring as a champion.
Yep,
But
yeah,
this
yeah.
time he's going to have to sit his butt down somewhere. Yeah.
He's gonna have to stick there at 140 pounds. Yeah, had that fight against Cepeda. That's gonna be a very good fight, by the way.
I meant
Uh,
network too. You don't have to sit your
yeah,
butt down somewhere.
yeah, that too. That definitely that. Um, so we'll see what happens there in that particular bout because I mean we got to
Real
see
quick,
what happens if that's gonna be televised or something or who's gonna carry it.
yeah,
What's
real
up,
quick.
Oh,
Terrell?
that's going to keep getting postponed. That fight, that's terrible, man. Come on, ESPN. Come on, ESPN. Help your fighters. Come on. Ah,
Yeah, real quick on the Prograis Cepeda fight. So we
Uh-huh.
know that's won by the first bit of Mob Nation promotion or whatever. They basically won like a was it 2.4 million they bid on that. Basically outbid
Mhm.
everybody. They did make their 10% payment to the I think the WBC whoever it was, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
at this point now, well, my main question now is Mob Nation going to be the 2020 version of Triller? Because as of yet they have not
yes.
established a site or date, and
Yeah,
they
no
are
site, no
and they're
date,
yep
Yes, sir.
no
Yes, sir.
no
and
television. Like
Yes.
if they're gonna have it
Yes.
on
Like
Fight
what? Like what?
TV.
Like what is this? And then when that purse bid happened, what was that already? That's going on 40 days ago, right? And you have 90 days to make this happen. This stuff's gonna keep getting postponed. Bob Arum, come on, somebody over there, Rick Rush, somebody step
Well, I
up,
mean
man. Come on.
that's gonna end up potentially happening. I mean, we
Oh no,
saw
it's
it didn't
happening.
happen with
I don't see them
yeah.
making the
So
fight.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't even know
yeah.
who Marv Nation was when I heard about
Me
this. I was like,
neither.
what?
well
I'm me neither.
They kept everyone, whoever works for them, they kept their checks for like 2 weeks. They kept everyone's checks just to put that bid together. They're like, oh my gosh, we got it. We got to actually really pay it though, and they kept everyone's money, man. That's I'm being funny, but like facetious too. But come on, man.
But he has a background in club promotions and concert promotions. So
Yeah.
and even saying that, he should be familiar with establishing a site and establishing a date. Those two principles for those relate in boxing and whether it be
Yeah.
concert
But
promotion.
Terrell, that's a good fight. That's a decent fight. That's a televised fight. That's a televised fight. Zepeda
But
and
yeah, I
Regis
mean it's a
for a
televised
belt.
fight, but when you don't have that much of a background in the boxing you know genre, you got to be able to figure out okay, what's the best spot to place this fight? What other fights could I put alongside this card? Like who else would I include in this? And and other type of things. Those are like the intangibles that they got to have ready, you know.
I'm putting
And
pressure. I'm putting pressure on Top Rank because Zepeda's their fighter. He's in their stablemate. They could put him in. They could put that
well,
fight
I kind of
with the
get that
Teo
point.
fight coming in December. So I mean, come
I
on,
kind of
man.
get that point. Like, but I mean, they could have pushed to have this fight. They had ESPN back in it. They could have had something where they could have placed a date for this fight and just would have had it on the slot. Or like you said, it could have just been on the thing for the Teofimo
Teo fight.
Lopez card. That's slated for December. What is it? December 17th at Madison Square Garden. So we'll see how that goes with this thing. But yeah,
You know what
what
else
did you
too,
say?
though?
It's
So,
about 30 days in. It's about 30 days
yeah,
in or
no, it's
something
like
like that.
40 days now. It's like 40
40
into the
days.
90-day
Yeah,
process. So like this is
90
gonna keep
days.
getting postponed, man. But
Yeah, like
I'm trying to be funny now. You know what it is, though, right? It's because uh Regis did a dummy move and signed with those pro bellum guys, and there's so much, bad talk with that, whoever they're
mhm,
really involved with. So I don't know.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
I was really sad to hear that, Top Rank didn't get it because Regis can go over there and make 500,000, 800,000, beat
I
him,
mean,
get a belt.
here's something else too, right? You could have, and for Top Rank, they could have done something like this, and I don't think it would have cost them this much, right? You could have had a card that would have been on ESPN, but Top Rank might have tried to put this on ESPN Plus. We could have a world title doubleheader, right? For the vacant WBC title, you would have Regis Prograis against Jose Zepeda. And you could have Janabek and Hanuli having his first defense of the WBO middleweight title, and it could have been against someone like a Squeaver Falcao.
Could have been in Oklahoma. Could have been somewhere like that.
So
Like if they're gonna do
what
all
would be
that,
the
then yeah, I'm telling you, pressure on them.
that could have that I mean, for me that's kind of easy in a sense. My thing would have been like, okay, yeah, put in a date for it, put it on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, November 26th or something, like dude, like, or December 3rd. You could have fit it in that, like, y'all, like, remember last year they had that thing where like you had 3 fights within like the same day or two. You know what I'm saying? You had the Davis pay-per-view, you had Devin Haney fighting, and I think it was Lomachenko on that date or something. But like, I mean, I could do it again. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? What's
One
that,
thing
Terrell?
one thing you look at when you now, I don't know the last purse amounts for Cepeda and Prograis, right? But my man already said there's not a lot of money at 140. So when you look at the mere amount that Mom Nation bid to win the fight, it's strongly to just they don't know either they didn't do the research or they just know what the hell what they're doing to bid that amount
I like what you said there, Terrell, sir. I like what you said there.
to commit that much money for each fighter to get $1 million payday. And I mean, is there Prograis?
But you know what's wild, clever, is that here's where you're kind of like really disappointed in Top Ranking this, right? You have Jose Zepeda as your fighter. They go through this thing for the purse bid, and they don't even enter their name in the hat.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Come on,
Yeah.
ESPN. Oof.
Yeah. So
Well,
I mean, so August. Yeah.
But you're familiar with that. You're familiar with catching things like that, flagging it. So that's I don't know, brother.
Yeah. So I mean, here we are. Like I said, it's going around like it's coming up to 30 days. It was August 30th when that purse bid was that took place, and it was Royal Nation that doubled the bid of TGB Promotions, Sam Brown, with the bid of 2.4 million, and so, hey, 1.2 million for each fighter. That ain't bad.
You said Tom Brown was involved?
Yeah, TGB
GTB?
Promotions. Yep.
So in unison, he's still with Regis, or Regis still with them?
I don't think so.
Or he just bid, any
Yeah,
promoter
you
can
just
bid.
put in, anybody, once it's a purse bid, any promoter can bid, just like how Matchroom bid for when you had Teofimo Lopez and George Cambosos, they threw their
Right.
name in the hat for that, so that was thing about that particular instance. But yeah, when you only have like two companies bidding for the fight and one of them is not even top ranked, it kind of like says a lot, So I mean, hey, I
Well,
want to see it
actually, you
be
know
pulled
what? You made
off.
me think of something. So maybe Top Rank's just not pushing for the title for Zepeda. Like maybe because it's WBC, so
Yeah,
isn't Jose Ramirez still very highly ranked? They may want to push him in that. Just saying.
I mean, but remember, he was supposed to fight Zepeda for the vacant title.
Oh yes, I'm tripping. So he fell out. Regis got the spot. Right. Because I remember
Yeah.
we making a big deal of Regis. Okay. Well then they don't want the fight because they think their fighter's gonna lose. Then there you go.
Yeah. It's
Lack of
gonna
support.
be it.
Yeah, no sportsmanship on Terrell. That's terrible. Which is integrity. It's bad.
That's wild. That's just wild. That's just wild. So yeah, that being on a note, want to jump into that thing where I'll rehash the boxing source pound for pound rankings.
Oh
Hadn't
yeah.
like updated it in a while, so I had released it in the middle of last week, and it was pretty extensive, but we had a couple of new entries in the list, and some people that kind of like switched around in their positions. Just going, from 10-1. I got at number 10 Archer Beterbiev, unified champion there at light heavyweight. Number 9, as I mentioned, Shakur Stevenson, unified champion at super featherweight. And then number 8, former undisputed champion at super lightweight, Josh Taylor. At number 7, Gervonta Tank Davis, multi-division world champion. At number 6, Stephen Fulton, unified champion at super bantamweight. Number 5, Terrence Crawford, welterweight champion, WBO welterweight champion. Number 4, undisputed super welterweight champion, Jermell Charlo. Number 3, unified champion at bantamweight, Naoya Inoue. Number 2, unified champion at welterweight, Errol Spence. And number 1, the unified heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk. It was number 2 and number 1 were switched after Alexander Usyk scored the win over Anthony Joshua on August 20th. And the thing for Mel Charlo, being the undisputed super welterweight champion, had him be above Terrence Crawford because Crawford was there at number 4 at first. Before I had pegged him down. And also, Josh Taylor was dropped down a couple of spots, and a few other fighters had been kind of like removed from the list altogether from the previous list I had. So that is my list for the top 10 pound for pound fighters out there right now in the sport.
Right on. I'm not mad at you. Shortly before I came back to the Twitter Spaces back in June, I had I had like a boxing epiphany. So and yeah, I'm not so high on the pound for pound list. I have them, but they don't mean anything. I would though. I want to change it though. I want to change yours. You know that, right? Though. And I think you'd like it. I would kick Usyk off the list because if I were to have one, no more heavyweights on the list. Just
wow. Okay.
They were never meant to be on the list because now that he's there, you got to go through a 6'9", 300 man to become undisputed. But you've heard me say this a million times. Source, look, Usyk's a natural heavyweight. He just cut down to cruiserweight. I mean, like his contemporaries down there, because they're at heavyweight now, like 3 or 4 of those guys. In fact, they're
which still kind of like surprises me that in the amateur ranks that Sean Porter scored a win over him.
Yeah, you know, and I don't put too much stock into that,
Yeah.
man. I mean that just lets me know that the current greats, this current era, all these guys, you know, grew up fighting each other and know of
Yeah.
each other if you were worth a damn. Um, and then so yeah, I would kick Usyk off, but you know, I love him, but no heavyweights on. I would put Jamel Charlo number one just for all
What he did.
for just for all of everyone's opinions on what, you know, how everyone comes to the table with their boxing opinion. He is that epitome. He is that. He is at the top. He is conquered. He, you know, because undisputed to me today means nothing, man. It means nothing. No one cares. It's marketed uh, at a vastly differential, you know, highly rate. I made some shit up there, but he's done that, man, and he went through a lot of good guys to do it, and he did it in fashion, whether he needed a rematch or not. Um, he probably has more losses than what is accounted for him. You know, everyone gets stuff swinging their way, but he has conquered it and mastered it. And I'm just saying, like, those close calls. Not that I'm saying he lost anything. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure there is, but he, for the most part, has conquered it, and he did it in fashion, man, belt by belt. And he doesn't. He still doesn't get his flowers, bud. I mean, they got now anyway, number one. Um, so yeah, man, and I like the Charlos. I mess with the Charlos. I like the Charlos. I just need to talk about them more. But maybe it's the Texas thing with me. But yeah, man, he should be number one. He really should. I would switch spots. Tank and Inoue. Inoue, I should put on. Yeah, if I still had a list, he would be 8, 9, 10. And that's just respect. Yeah, that's just respect to the guys in the higher weights, man. I just think what they're doing up there is way more harder, way more impressive, because he right now, and I keep stressing to our guys in our other spaces, like, look, man, there's no one down there who can take his power. That's why he's cleaning them out. His best win is Donier twice. I said to those guys, they laughed me out the space. I said, look, man, Tank's Leo Santa Cruz win alone is better than anything that he's got on his resume. I don't care what y'all say. I don't care what y'all say. Any and every excuse or debate. It's not even a debate, man, like, to me. But so I would switch those two. And you know me, I love Naito. He's my favorite fighter right there with Tank and Errol. Like, I just think those guys are doing a lot more. I mean, if I ask you, what has he done that they haven't did? You know, people would start struggling. They would be really, really struggling, man. Especially Errol, dude. Errol is very impressive, man. It's you know, people complain about, like, I'm kind of going everywhere, but people complain about, like, oh, you know, about this fight, the Spence Crawford saga, and that they should have fought a long time ago. Well, I'm like, dude, you've been witnessing history. This guy is, however long it's taken, has been able, and he's, you know, blessed in that faction where the belts have been with him. Think Floyd Mayweather, the welterweight titles have been with, you know, Showtime, PBC. So he's been blessed to have a nice golden brick road to the championships, and he's done it in fashion, man. So, like, I disagree with folks who say that. So yeah, I would kick Usyk off. I put Jamel 1. I'd put Errol 2. Yeah, I'd keep Errol at 2 because he's on the cusp. But more on that later. But he's on the cusp. I think we all agree. And if you just don't like Errol, man, you're just a hater, man. No fanaticism there. Yeah, I like where you got Bud, 5 or 6. Steven, I like. Yeah, it's hard for me between Steven and Josh Taylor right now. Josh has lost a lot of momentum. You know, he's lost. He's yeah. Let's face it, he's just lost pure momentum. Pure momentum. However, he did win against Collateral Damage and Jack Catterall. I don't know what people will be making such a hissy fit about that. He beat that guy. As far as a boxing match goes, how you score it, effective punching, effective aggression, ring generalship, and defense. I thought he did all of that, even with the point deductions and whatnot from both heights, that stuff, the mathematics. But he beat that guy. After Josh laid in some hardcore body shots, collateral damage was never the same. His punch output went down. Everything went down. He was hurt. The effective punching placement and the aggression worked, and Josh had to do it getting off the canvas. He literally won the last 4 rounds. Just off output, if you want to, and I don't even care about the punch numbers and stuff, because that's someone else looking at punches and writing it down. I might as well write that down too. I love you though, Dan C at Copybox, but yeah, I thought Josh won that. But Stephen Fulton is also, we're witnessing history with him too, man. The way he's collecting things, and he's doing it on the back half of his career. Like, we're at the beginning cusp of the back half, because he changed his style, and I got to talk to him personally in those chicken talks and ask him questions, and really Dan Seher, I go with Copybox, dropped that knowledge on us, and then I got to ask him those questions, and yeah, man, he changed his entire style. So that's why he's having success, and his best win on his resume is Brandon Figueroa. That's his best win, man. That's his best win, and he did it. He earned it. I still think that's a controversial fight, but he did it. He earned it, and he did it in fashion. So he deserves to be right there on the sources list. Shakur, I really want to put Arthur Beterbiev in there, man, but he I'll make it short with him. It's funny with him, I feel like we're all expecting him, we're expecting Father Time to catch up with him, but he just keeps amazing, cease to amaze us. And man, like, bro, like, that's real power, man. He's got real power, man, at that weight and at that area, and for his size. Like, he's got center blocks in his hands, man. Like, when he hit my boy Joe, Blue, when he hit Blue that first time, like, Joe's face was like whoa.
Yeah.
He was like, whoa. He was like, okay. It was like, I didn't know it was like that, man. He was like, whoa. And then he got knocked. He's still on Saturn, bro. We still have not heard from him.
Yeah.
He got knocked to Saturn. We have not heard. He has not come back to Earth yet, bro. It's crazy.
No. Like, we haven't heard one word from him. I mean, I don't even know if he returned to work in the
dude. I'm telling you, he's still in the rings. He like, when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, he left Earth, bro. So I want to put him higher, but like, I'm just expecting Follow Time to catch up with him. But I do want to see him win on a high note, talking about Arthur Beterbiev. And then Shakur, he's a top 5 talent, he's just still paving the way. And I said this months ago, after he fought Oscar, I was like, look, like, yeah, he gonna just clean up his side, ESPN. And like I said, if he puts it all together, he's the one. And I think the real fight at 35 is him and Tank.
Yeah,
I would love to see it. I think Tank beats him, of course, but that's the real fight. Everyone wants Devin and Tank to go there. No. I want that too, but like, this could really work with Shakur and Tank. And I haven't said this in a long time. That could be co-promotional, but especially if Shakur does what he does. But he's next, man. He's next. But I like your list. I like that list. That's up there with some of the best. I'm glad. You know what really makes me happy? This is my favorite stat about your list, actually. I like that you got Tank on there. And I like how you introduced him and his accolades. He's a multi-divisional champion. Yes, those secondaries count. And he did it twice at 30, I believe. So
yeah, he did.
That's official. WBA, shout out to the Al Heyman belt. But Tank's a killer, man. Tank's a killer, brother. Like, ain't nobody beating Tank. I think Tank could beat Keith Thurman. That's a good, yeah. Like, if think about it. If Manny Pacquiao can go 8 divisions, why can't Tank? I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying, like, because everyone makes and that's his issue. He's diminutive, but like, come on, like, Tank's a killer, bro. I don't care what none of y'all say. Like, he beat a lot of people, even just off him believing in himself, man. Like, he He the real deal, brother. He's the real deal. He's the real. So that's my favorite part about your list. You got Gervonta Tank. I think I say it like Eddie Hearn. Gervonta Tank Davis. I love that. I love that. You got to admit it, man. Tank is everywhere, man. He stole the hearts, even of the haters, brother. Because think about it. Tank is super humble, Source. Like, when do you ever hear Tank, like, talking down on people? Tank.
Oh, when he was in the build-up
No,
to the
I know when he's like, okay, that's just meddling. But for real, like, but for real,
oh
on the
man,
real,
come
like,
on,
the Tank is.
that was great,
Nah,
man.
man.
Like we call this trainer Booker T. Come on, man.
Nah, he meddling. He just being funny. But like seriously, like Tank is very humble, man. Like he puts people up. Like, come on, man. He came from literally. He's the flower coming from the concrete, man. And he knows that. So that's why he don't be fronting on any of his stuff. He's a straight shooter like Arrow. He don't front on none of his stuff. Like, and then even if he messes up, he corrects himself and goes back. So, but he ain't got to do much, man. Like. He's humbled. And that's what I mean when I use that humble word with him. Like he's for real, and I'm very happy for him. He should be. I'm hearing rumors in some of my boxing circles. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much, but in some of my boxing circles that I talk with, man, he should be bigger than Floyd Mayweather, man. He's on that type of trajectory, but Floyd, there's an argument that Floyd won't give him those fights. Like. And
we'll see.
Yeah, man. I was just about to throw a little Loma comparison, but nah. And I like Loma, but yeah, man. No, like, cause Tank can beat everybody, bro. So, bro, like, okay, so that's. I mean, if Mayweather's $1 billion, like he's $1 billion too, bro. Like he charging about the. I'm telling you. Trying to tell you. I can't even say that about some of my favorite fighters. And then there's Deontay Wilder.
Tank needs to continue to become his own man and keep getting his own voice away from Mayweather in order to become that major star. That's what he needs at this point. He's right there.
I agree, sir.
Yeah, we would have to see like how Tank kind of like carries himself outside of the Floyd Mayweather, kind of like banner. I know that, Floyd and Leonard Ellaby, still work with Gervonta Davis as far as like being a promoter or being like a co-promoter, so to speak. But until we have like a full-fledged GTD promotions out there for him, then, you're still going to have some type of involvement when it comes to Leonard Ellaby, pretty much like Leonard Ellaby, because he's actually there in the forefront more than Floyd Mayweather is when it comes to.
Oh yeah, he's his promoter, no doubt. He promotes him like crazy. That's all he ever talks about when it comes to.
So
when he really starts talking boxing.
And that was one thing that I did miss, in the social media sphere when Leonard Ellaby was able to join in for that.
That was really fun. That was neat, man. That was neat, and he dropped nuggets. Dropped some serious nuggets.
But Leonard Ellaby, like, to me, has always been somebody that has been forthcoming on everything that he talks about. And the amount of like criticism he gets, to me, is crazy, because he's been upfront with pretty much every single situation that's out there. Whether it's within a crowd of people or like within a crowd of reporters, or when. I've talked with them a couple of times. Like, he's always been forthcoming on things. So I don't understand where that criticism comes from, because he's been in the game for a very long time, not just from being a promoter, but kind of like being there, to a certain extent in the ring, being like a chief second, a cut man or something like that. That he was there with Floyd Mayweather, and
his whole career, most of it.
Pretty much his whole career, and he's seen firsthand the rise of Floyd Mayweather to become the superstar that he is, and seeing the things that he did in order to become the crossover superstar for the sport of boxing. So,
right,
I don't understand why people don't give Leonard Ellaby props for stuff like that, because he's been there.
Well, you know, you're right. You're right, and I agree. And that's with everything, man. I always say this: you gotta take the good, the bad, and ugly. Meaning, we're all imperfect, man. He's not perfect, but he's very intelligent. He knows what he's doing. He's like you said, he's been in the game for a long time, and damn near everything that him and Floyd has ever touched has turned to gold. And then as far as him and Tank and Mayweather promotions, I mean, they are the standard, and that's why he's talking the way he's talking. So uh, fast forward a little bit, when Eddie's and the Bobs and whatever are talking, like, yeah, it's perception and hype and manipulation, and we're all pretty good at that. Whether we have an adversary or going against us or not, they're good at that. What I'm trying to say is that's good in the not good, but they're good at that in the boxing industry. They're good at manipulating and prescribing one way and then hyping up another way. So, but Floyd and them and Leonard, for the most part, they keep it straight, and they shoot it straight there, and they don't really have to say much because, like I said, they are the standard. I mean, name me one time that Leonard's involvement with Floyd or Tank that it's not gold, man. I mean, like you said, he's seen firsthand the rise. They know those numbers. They know the data. And coming back to that chicken talk, he dropped a lot of nuggets, man. Some people in there believe that or not, he was giving you the real, man. He not only from his perspective, but he was saying this is why Tank is what he is. Just using him for the example. They figured out the secret. They figured out the recipe. Like you said, I'm gonna use that crossover word on how to get it done. And more people need to take more notice of that rather than something you've heard me negative about them. Because I think that would trump it all. And then if you do some research on that, that's when all the angles really start. Because you'd be like, wow, you start figuring out what they had to do to get over some stuff.
Right. Yep. And that's the thing with having the elements that Leonard Ellaby has alongside working with Floyd Mayweather, alongside working with Al Heyman, that they have those multiple years of experience to kind of properly maneuver fighters to be the most successful that they could be. And if they see something where, hey, this guy could really be the guy, then they're gonna put forth their full efforts into him. So when I seen that, okay, after the fight with
and that's like five guys
with
too, sir.
yeah, but when they said after the fight with Yuriorkis Gamboa, that they said, hey man, we're seeing a lot of success when it comes to folks attending this fights. Folks want to see him out there, and getting good viewership here and there. Let's go ahead and let's try to go for a pay-per-view, make him a pay-per-view guy. And so they went ahead and did that, and they had that thing there with Leo Santa Cruz, and that Halloween weekend of that year, and
in the pandemic,
and it pretty much shot up from there. So you've seen him there against Santa Cruz, you've seen him there against Mario Barrios, we see him there, that he's had there, with Rolly Romero and the little guy there. What was it?
Isak.
Yeah, Isak Cruz Gonzalez, and all of those things have been good events and successful events, and that they kind of did what they needed to do in order to build him up as a a good pay-per-view guy. But I think the one that really kind of stands out to me was that fight against Rolly Romero, because it was something where you have somebody that's known for knocking out and stopping people against a guy that boxing fans probably wanted to see him get knocked out, and so that was kind of like a perfect storm there. And having it at Barclays Center, that was the first major boxing event at Barclays Center since lockdown, and it was a packed house there, completely sold out, and it just came out very well for him on that weekend. And so now, we just got to see what would be next year for Tank Davis, possibly coming up here in December. I know that there's like a couple of guys that are kind of like in the running. There's like maybe a couple others that have been in the running, but kind of like taking themselves out of it. So we'll see if they finally go through or go forward with Tank versus Ryan in December, or if it may be somebody else. But have to get keep an ear on it for my guys over there, Upton Jim. Shout out to the Rise podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna just bring him up. Shout out to him, baby. Love him,
Yeah.
love him.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's how Tank can really. When Terrell said something that made me think of Rise earlier, I want to mention when he said distance himself, and I was like, he already is, man. Starting with those guys, because he's got all those coaches, all that community who he's helping up. And say if he did take off his promotion, well, it needs to. He could grab some fighters from the hometown, man, and represent them and keep it going and really. I follow Tank a lot, so like he does a lot of philanthropy work, man, over there.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff, but more money comes more problems. So Tank is very busy. He's very busy getting it going,
yep.
getting whatever that he does.
So we gotta see what else he's gonna be able to do there within the city of Baltimore, and have other fighters there within the Upton Gym, or the training.
Crazy how also too, Source, people are getting names off him. Think Rolly and Cruz.
Yeah. Well, particularly Isak Cruz. Look at what Isak Cruz is.
Even Rolly too, man. But Rolly, the reason why I add him, because Rolly talks. He's charismatic. So like that's really pushing it. And like Box Talk 101, Freddie, my boy. Oh man, he loves him to death. And I love him to death too, but I'm just like, dog, like.
Yeah, but it's one thing to be talking about. You got to be able to get in the ring, and he hasn't been able to get in the ring yet. Isak Cruz has had pretty much 2 fights since.
Oh, it's showcasing the crap out of him.
Yeah. So I mean that kind of like is I don't know. That's like kind of like a hit or miss with some of the opponents that they had. I mean, like look at Mario Barrios. He did have a fight against Keith Thurman this year, so it probably got him a little bit of a bag of sorts. But he's
got like he's got the most money he's ever got, man. He's chilling out in the middle of San Antonio, New Bronzeville, sitting there with the caves or these hot springs, and really thinking about what's next. Because he's a good fighter. That's a good win by Tank.
I'd like to see if that's if he is also able to continue his career at 140 pounds, because 140 pounds is one of the more deeper divisions out there in the sport of boxing. Mario Barrios.
Yeah, but there's no money. Mario Barrios has got some money.
I don't care.
Come on. It's about now. Well, I know you don't care. I don't care either. I mean, I care about them getting the money. But dude, it's all about the money.
But it's all about the money. But if he stays there 147 pounds, he's gonna get himself.
No, don't do that. Okay, you went there. You take Errol Spence Jr. because Errol's gonna move up in the next anywhere from now to the next year. By the end of next year, he should be at 154. By the end of next year, before the year of 23 is over, he should be at 54, meaning he's moving up. So you take him out. You got Terrence. You got Keith. You got your Dennis Ugas. You have Virgil Ortiz. You got Boots. That's 5 people right there. I'm going to throw Connor Ben's bitch ass in there too. Even though he's never fought a welterweight contender right now.
Wow, you got so much feature towards Connor Ben? Yo.
Well, I'm just saying because this is where I'm leading to it right now. So yeah, I'll throw him in there. And who else? Of course, Bud Crawford. So that's 7. Did I say Bud already? I think I said Bud already.
Yes, you did.
One more guy. There's one more guy in there. But those are pretty much the top guys of the division right there. So, and then you got the last bottom 4 or 5, and Mario's at the top of that, right there with Sebastian Formella, with the Cody Crowlers. Who else? There's someone in there. Stanley Otis is throw him in the top there too. He's a top 4 guy.
You know what?
So It's
All right,
you
all
take
right,
Errol
okay,
out,
okay. Wait,
it's
wait.
decent.
Before you even go there, all right. Let's see this for a current thing for Mario Barrios. Okay, let's say he establishes himself at 154. I mean 154, 147. Right? He's ranked at 147. Right? Okay. Here's two potential guys that he could face: Rashidi Ellis and Radza Butayev. Does he get a win over either one of those guys?
No, man. Why y'all trying to feed him to Rashidi?
I mean, Rashidi ain't really had a fight over
Yeah,
almost
Rashidi
2
ain't
years.
shit. Oh yeah, I forgot to throw him in there too. He's a bottom 8 guy, bottom 9 guy now. I mean, according to the timeline. I mean, man, yeah, people love Speedy Rashidi. I'm just like, I'm like, man, I like this brother Ronald, but okay, all right, I'm with that. Power to the people.
Question for you. So right now we say that 140 is not a money division, right? Mm-hmm. So say like, for example, within the next 6 to 8 months, we got Devin Haney moves up to 140.
Josh Taylor moves up too, though, Terrell. Probably
right?
soon.
But give me a second. So right now we got my main people at 140. Devin Haney moves up. Fights with what's my man? Teofimo Lopez becomes competitive, and these guys start to fight each other. Does 140 then become more of a money division, more attractive?
No, it doesn't.
Well, to me, there's only one fighter that can make the 140-pound division a money division, and that is Clever's favorite fighter, Gervonta Tank Davis. Okay,
there you go. You go.
Even though Devin Haney kind of like requests a lot out of his fights, but his current deal, he kind of like takes a pay cut of sorts. He doesn't really command the demand to get that money. You know what I mean? So what
that's where I was going.
You can have a Devin Haney, you could have Teofimo Lopez that's trying to compete there at 140 pounds right now. And that could be a potential fight out there is a Haney versus Lopez. But like, would that be enough to like generate enough interest to have like it be like a big money fight? You know what I mean?
I'm right. I mean, I'm just going off the data. No. Neither of those guys. To answer your question, it makes the division competitive.
Hold on.
But no.
But on that note, right? Here's gonna be a good indicator of why you would say no, right? We're gonna have Teofimo Lopez having another fight here this year. It's gonna be December 17th. It's gonna be after the Heisman Trophy presentation,
and it's not pay-per-view.
And it's not, well, one, it's not pay-per-view, and then two, it's going to be at Madison Square Garden. If it's going to be at the big arena at Madison Square Garden, is he going to be able to command enough interest to have enough people to go in there and buy tickets to go and see him there? Right, that's it. That's all you need to say. That's all you needed to say. Right,
but no.
That's all you need to
not
say.
Not the big room. Not the big room. Not the big room.
If you have to think about it, then it's no. Like,
no.
Come on. Like, no.
No.
I mean, what? Like, his last fight was like outside Resorts World in Las Vegas.
Yeah, but it's packed. We had a lot of people there.
But it was like I ain't even gonna go into that.
But I answered the good man's question. I said no right off the rip. Like, it makes it competitive, but like, there's no money, man. There's no. And if they are, they're walking away at $3 and $4 million.
As many people as out there in 140-pound division that people could probably name that could be contenders or serious contenders for the now vacated belts. There at 140 pounds, it still doesn't, generate the interest to get, folks, butts in the seats or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if it's not Tank Davis being there established at 140 pounds, then I just don't see it. You know what I mean? I just don't see it. But with that, being said, man, the only
wait, one more question for you.
All right, real quick. because we're going above like 2 hours here, north of
I
2
know, no,
hours.
I
One
appreciate it because
more.
you usually you check it in really. I know, yeah, so I appreciate it. Um, how and it's just I'm just asking, just brainstorming. But you would have some familiarity with it. How realistic is a Josh Taylor Terrence Bud Crawford fight? I think it's pretty realistic.
I thought it would have been realistic earlier this year, but
Josh has his belt though, and if he moves up, that's his right to ask for
yeah,
that
I
shot.
mean, yeah,
That's
but
his money. That's it. That's his 3 and 4 million, $5 million he's looking
yeah,
for. That's why he dropped all the rest.
yeah, but if he was gonna, but he would have had to make it known right off the bat, like when when Terrence Crawford was defeated Julius Ndago and became the champion there at 140 pounds. He made it known that he was going to move up right after, pretty much soon after that. And that, okay, I'm giving up all of these belts, boop, 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 because I know that I am going to move up. And I'm waiting to see what happens with Jeff Ward and what he does against what I think it was Gary Corcoran at the time, where he had the defense of that WBO title. So
Mm-hmm.
he made it known then. But with Josh Taylor, it wasn't that he was as emphatic as saying, hey, I'm going to move up to 147 pounds and I want to have that fight against Terrence Crawford. That wasn't even like, because remember, he fought and defeated Jose Carlos Ramirez a few months before, Terrence Crawford had his fight with Sean Porter. So if Josh Taylor had that intent on moving up to 147, he could have done it late in the summer or by August before Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter, went ahead and tried to, face each other at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. So I mean, that's why I pretty much say that he's kind of like stuck because of what happened immediately after Crawford Porter, and that just made him say, okay, so now I got to stay here at 140 pounds and have a defense of the undisputed titles, and then he has that bout, and now he's kind of, like I said, he's pretty much kind of stuck in a sense with that. So we got to see how that goes. But with that being said, wanted to kind of like put it into this particular episode of the Bison Source Radio Show. Thank everyone that enjoyed the live conversation, and it is always available through iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, whatever you use for your podcast. And like I said at the end of every show, folks, the point of Bison is to hit and not get hit, not to send a trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.
Yeah, you guys have a good start to the week. Holler.